Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military with Summary channel, and in this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the United States of America, where according to media a lot of important meetings and talks are going to take place today on the 20th of December of 2025. Progress has been made in resolving the conflict in Ukraine, but there is still room for improvement. Negotiations to end the conflict in Ukraine do not imply the imposition of any agreement. So the sources are saying that during the next 12 hours, a lot of meetings are going to take place in Miami. First of all, we're going to see a meeting between the United States of America and the Russian Federation. The Russia's representatives have already arrived on the territory of state, and most likely they're going to talk and they're going to discuss everything that was discussed during the Berlin summit that took place several days ago between the United States of America, Ukraine, and the European countries. Furthermore, we received a very interesting statement from Marco Rubio. He said that the United States continues to share intelligence information with Ukraine. So this is a very important statement, and this statement means that the United States of America not just provide Ukraine military information according to, let's say, about the situation along the line of combat contact and so on. First of all, the Secretary of State Marco Rubio was trying to tell us that the United States of America always tells Ukrainians that the situation is very difficult, that most likely the Russians will continue their offensive operation in 2026, and if Ukraine doesn't accept demands and the peace plan that was prepared by the United States of America, this situation can lead to unpredictable consequences for Ukraine and its sovereignty. Furthermore, during the previous 12 hours, another important statement was made by the US authorities. According to information we have, peace is the best option for all sides. US Permanent Representative to NATO Matthew Whitaker declared that continuing the Ukrainian conflict is a complete waste of time and that is very costly. I mean, it's very costly. That's why peace is the best option for all sides. You know, Russia is spending probably twice as much to continue this war. It's a complete waste of time. What's happening, Todd, is pointless, and that's why President Trump is adamant that the killing must stop and we need a peace agreement, and we insist, he insists, and his team insists. Furthermore, he added that and emphasized that Ukraine must be ready to continue war in 2026 if they don't accept Russia's demands by the end of the 2025. So now let's go to Ukraine and let's discuss important updates that we received during the previous 12 hours. The sources are saying that there is a threat of rising prices and gasoline shortages. Shelling of the Odessa-Reni bridge could block 60% of fuel imports export of the prime group of companies Slushkin. If the bridge in Mayaki is completely destroyed, it will be possible to get from Izmail to the rest of the Odessa region only through Romania. 60% of fuel is important to Ukraine through the Danube ports. So he's trying to tell us that the Russians are trying to destroy right now this bridge in the area of the settlement of Mayaki. We discussed the situation yesterday, and if Russians are able to destroy the bridge, then Ukraine will lose or up to 60% of fuel import, and obviously this is a not very good situation, not just for civilians but also for the situation along the line of combat contact. As for this bridge in the area of the settlement of Mayaki, we received two reports from this area during the previous 12 hours. The first one is that said the traffic on the bridge in Mayaki on the Odessa-Reni highway has been blocked after a series of strike is being closed for repairs. So the Ukrainians are saying that this bridge was closed. Furthermore, pro-Russian sources and pro-Ukrainian sources published this video where we can see how Russians were attacking this bridge with missiles, with drones, and with missiles with cluster rounds, with cluster warhead, as you can see. So the Russians are trying to destroy not just the bridge itself, the Russians are trying to destroy the surrounding infrastructure and even probably some engineering engineering equipment that Ukrainians are trying to use to repair the bridge right now. So the Russians are tasked to destroy the bridge completely, and this can lead to unpredictable consequences for Ukraine. If you remember, yesterday we discussed that if Russians are able to cut the most southwestern part of Odessa region from the entire mainland, this can give the Russians opportunity to begin offensive operation in this direction. I'm sure that Russians found the solution how to cross the Black Sea and how to land enough of infantry in this area to establish complete control over this territory, of course with the support of Transnistria. So I don't think that this is a huge problem for Russians. It's just a matter of price, and it's just a matter of price they're going to pay for this. So the Odessa region is probably a focal point for Ukrainians, for Russians, and so on. And furthermore, during the previous 12 hours, we received several photos from the city of Odessa. Here we can see partial or semi-blackouts through the settlement. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 12 hours, we received small changes in this area. The Russians continue their offensive operation in the area of the city of Guliai-Polye, and today, as you can see, the map has been adjusted. Not very big, let's say, changes, but we have something along the street of Geroyev Ukraine. So this video was published by pro-Russian sources, and here we can see how FPV drone operators of the armed forces of the Russian Federation were supporting the ground operation of Russian soldiers in this area. In this video, we can see how two Russian stormtroopers thrown grenade or some explosives on the inside of this building, and then the Russians retreat from this area, and then there was a very heavy and big explosion. So this episode took place exactly at this area, so we can make a conclusion that the Russians were clearing this territory. So based on this video, we came to the conclusion that Russians are entering the central and the western parts of the city of Guliai-Polye, and the Russians continue offensive operation. Furthermore, pro-Ukrainian sources stated that due to sabotage by some officers of the 102nd Brigade, there is a risk of losing Guliai-Polye. The fighters are being persuaded to abandon their positions, and activists are being sent Russian fakes. So the Ukrainians are trying to tell us that the situation is critical in this area, that the commanders of 102nd Defense Brigade ask their soldiers to retreat their positions and not to hold the lines, because most likely they understand that they have no chances to hold the city, to save control over the city of Guliai-Polye in coming days. And as we understand, the Russians are tasked to finish the battle for Guliai-Polye before the 2026 comes. A bit further to the north, there are still very heavy clashes for the, let's say, the river of Gaichul, for the Ukrainian side of the river. Today, pro-Ukrainian sources published a video where we could see how Ukrainians were counter-attacking Russians along Air 85 road, but we believe that the video is archived. I would like to remind you that according to information we have, according to different sources, the Russians managed to cross the river of Gaichul in this area and to get deeper in the direction of the city of Zaporozhye. Currently, the Russians are tasked to outflank the settlement of Ternovata and to enter the city, the village of Ternovata, from the south through the settlement of Kovtseva. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Pokrovsk agglomeration. And according to information we have, the Russians finished the battle for the city of Mirnograd. During the previous 12 hours, lots of mappers adjusted their maps in this area. As you can see, pro-Ukrainian sources have colored the city of Mirnograd as a complete and a gray zone without any islands of resistance, without any pockets of resistance from the Ukrainian side. So, which means that basically the Ukrainians currently don't have any strong defense line in this area. The settlement was completely colored as a gray zone, which means that most likely in coming hours, in coming days, the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will announce complete control over the territory. Several neutral mappers and neutral, let's say, experts stated that currently by the morning of the 20th of December of 2025, the Russians established control for more further 90-95% of Mirnograd, and Russians continue advancing. So in coming days, maybe even today, maybe tomorrow, the Russians will confirm complete control over the territory, and we might see a video with Russian flags. A bit further to the north, the Russians continue their offensive operation in the area of the settlement by the name of Sofiivka, and today several sources stated that as a result of clashes, the settlement of Sofiivka was completely captured by the Russians. So based on the reports that were published by different mappers, we adjusted the map in this area. This is the situation by the end of the 19th. This is the 20th of December. Russians continue offensive. We have a huge gap, as you can see. Probably this is the biggest gray zone through the entire line of combat contact, through the entire front line. So we are waiting for geolocations, we're waiting for videos, and of course if the information about the settlement of Sofiivka is correct, then most likely in coming days the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation will also confirm this. And if Sofiivka obviously fell, then Russians would continue offensive operation further in the direction of the settlement of Toretskaya. This will allow the Russians to create a very strong logistic in this area, with the possibilities to advance further in the northern direction towards the Kramatorsk-Slaviansk agglomeration. As for the Liman and Sivers directions, during the previous 24 hours, during the previous 12 hours, we haven't received anything special. Probably the most important update worth attention is the report that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and according to this report, as you can see, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the area of the city of Sivers, and according to pro-Ukrainian sources, Russians control up to 95% of the city of Sivers, and the rest 5% are the gray zone. Now let's discuss the situation in the area of the city of Kupiansk, where the Ukrainians continue their counter-offensive operation. During the previous 24 hours, the map has been adjusted once again. So this is the situation by the end of the 19th of December. We just received this video where we can see how Russians were attacking positions of the armed forces of Ukraine in the northern part. And today, different mappers, military experts clarified the situation in the northwestern part of the settlement. So these are the changes between the dates, and according to these changes, the Russians on the territory of the northwestern citadel were caught by the Ukrainians in Koldran. Now the Russians are holding their positions on the territory of this citadel without any supply and support from the mainland along the ground. The only way how Russians can still get supply is using drones. So the Russians, as you can see, show fierce resistance, and the Russians are not going to give up. And that's it for the short video. Military with Summary channel reminds that we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.